Over 99% of men live trapped in weakness. They chase, they explain, they negotiate, and lose their leverage before the game even starts. But few men ever face the real truth. Power with women is not taken through force. It's created through psychological structure, emotional calibration, and strategic leadership. While Machiavelli never addressed modern relationships directly, his mastery of human nature, power, loyalty, influence, applies directly to the emotional dynamics between men and women. And once you see these mechanics, everything changes. This video is not about manipulation. It's about becoming the man who leads with stability, who positions himself so women feel safer, more secure, and more invested when they follow your direction, with no negotiation. Stay until the very end, because what you're about to discover can radically transform how you understand women, power, and your own position as a man. Each habit will reveal a layer of female psychology 99% of men never access, but the rare men who rule quietly master them all. Habit 1. Maximize your physical and psychological attractiveness. Power doesn't start with words. It starts the second she sees you, and you're not speaking to her logical mind. You're speaking to her ancient brain, the part wired for survival, status, and security. Before she knows your name, she scans for strength, stability, dominance, protection, genetic fitness, emotional safety. Machiavelli understood this principle long before modern psychology. The wise ruler conquers not through force, but by making resistance unnecessary. In attraction, your presence makes resistance unnecessary. Picture this if you're single. You walk into a room. Your posture is upright, controlled. Your physique shows discipline. Your grooming is sharp. Your face calm. Your eyes observe, not seek approval. In seconds, her subconscious whispers, "This man is strong. This man is rare." Now add psychological control. No nervous laughter. No over-explaining. Total composure in silence. Her emotions process. He doesn't need me, and that makes me want him. If you're in a relationship or married, you continue improving physically. You maintain mystery and stability. You radiate value she doesn't want to lose. Machiavelli would say, "Continuous strength preserves peace." In relationships, peace means minimal resistance to your leadership. Here's your next move. Build and maintain visible physical strength. Control your grooming and style. Master emotional stillness and authority everywhere. Because when you activate her primal and emotional brain at once, her compliance often begins before you even ask. Now let's move forward. Because once her subconscious leans toward you, you use micro-commitments to guide her deeper into your frame. Habit 2. Use micro-commitments to guide her compliance. The human mind resists big, sudden changes, but it accepts small, progressive steps almost without noticing. Machiavelli knew one thing. To secure loyalty, a ruler begins by asking little and expands only once comfort is established. Women follow this same psychological pattern in relationships. They resist domination, but they follow momentum. The secret isn't force. It's stacking tiny agreements that condition her to follow your leadership. Let's bring it to life. If you're single, you meet a woman. Instead of demanding big shifts, you start small. Let's meet here instead of there. Let's do this instead tonight. She agrees easily. No pressure, no defense walls. But with every yes, her mind adjusts. I trust him to lead decisions. Over time, those micro-agreements condition her emotionally. When larger decisions arrive, living arrangements, serious commitments, future vision, her default response is already set to follow. If you're in a relationship or married, you can say, "Let's handle finances this way. Let's adjust how much time we give certain friends. Let's structure our weekends differently." Each agreement builds another layer of emotional alignment, and emotional alignment equals compliance. Machiavelli would call this expanding rule through voluntary habit, not abrupt decree. In short, start every new frame with small, easy asks. Build her pattern of agreeing with your lead, because once her mind gets used to following you in small things, it struggles to resist you in bigger ones. Now let's move forward. Because once these micro-commitments build, you can now control the rhythm that fuels her emotional addiction. Habit 3. Control the rhythm of emotional access. Desire doesn't grow in permanent exposure. It grows in carefully managed distance. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology. What is always available fades into indifference. What is controlled builds obsession. The mistake most men make is predictable. They live in extremes. Some drown her with constant presence, endless messages, and emotional over-availability. Others swing too far, becoming cold, distant, trying to appear alpha through detachment games. Both destroy long-term attraction, because true power isn't found in absence or suffocation. It lives in rhythm. Let's bring this into your world. If you're single, you meet her. The chemistry is strong. You create emotional highs together, fun, connection, tension. But instead of clinging to the momentum like most men, you control the tempo. You disappear for short periods. You respond on your schedule. You stay fully present when together, but you don't stretch conversations endlessly. That question ignites her emotional brain. The uncertainty plants the seed of obsession. If you're in a relationship or married, you maintain personal projects, solo focus time, personal growth, and independent activities. You give affection, but you never collapse your world into hers. She feels deeply connected, but never fully certain. And that slight incompleteness keeps her emotionally engaged. Machiavelli would call this preserving loyalty by never allowing complete comfort. Because comfort kills tension, and tension, properly managed, is the fuel of sustained desire. Here's your next move. Manage emotional access like a temperature dial. Offer warmth when she invests. Pull back slightly when tension needs to rise again. Because once you master this rhythm, her emotional investment grows automatically. Not through pressure, but through calibrated imbalance. Now let's move forward. Because once you've hooked her emotional brain, the next step is to bypass her resistance entirely by speaking to the deepest part of her identity. Habit 4. Speak to her self-image, not just her logic. Most men try to convince women with facts, with arguments, with debates. And that's where they fail before they even begin. Because women don't follow logic. They follow what protects or elevates their identity. Machiavelli captured this dynamic perfectly. When pride aligns with obedience, surrender feels like self-preservation. Every woman carries a private self-image. It's the mental story she repeats to herself every single day. I'm strong. I'm independent. I'm emotionally intelligent. Your power as a man isn't in attacking that narrative. It's in aligning your leadership with it, so that following you feels like a confirmation of who she already believes she is. Let's bring this to life. If you're single, you want her to change plans that interfere with your priorities. The weak man attacks. You're always out with your friends too much. You need to stop. Instant resistance. The strategic man reframes. One thing I respect about you is how loyal you are to people you care about. And that's exactly why I know you'll understand how important it is for us to protect this time together. Now compliance equals loyalty, one of her core values. Her mind processes. Following him proves my own loyalty. You bypass resistance because you never attacked her identity. You aligned with it. If you're in a relationship or married, this applies even deeper. In terms of finances, you can say, because you're so thoughtful with security, I know you'll see why this financial move strengthens us. For example, regarding parenting, you can say, because you care so deeply about stability for the kids, this is the direction that protects them long term. Every decision becomes easier, not because she's weaker, but because her self-respect is attached to following your leadership. Machiavelli would call this strengthening rule through voluntary identity alignment. Here's your next solution. Study her self-image relentlessly. Attach your leadership to the very qualities she already values in herself. Let her feel that following you isn't submission, it's self-expression. Because when compliance equals identity, resistance dissolves before it even forms. Now let's move forward. Because even when you frame things perfectly, your real power lies in knowing when to move and when to wait. Habit 5. Master timing, strike only. When emotional windows open, even the strongest frame collapses under bad timing. Timing is power. Machiavelli revealed this universal law when he wrote, "Fortune is like a woman, and she favors the bold who strike at the right moment." Women live on emotional rhythms. They shift naturally between openness and defensiveness, warmth and irritation, trust and withdrawal. The mistake most men make? They push at the wrong time. They try to enforce decisions in the middle of conflict, and they meet resistance every single time. The strategic man moves differently. He reads emotional weather and moves only when the skies are clear. Let's bring this to life. If you're single, you've been seeing her for several weeks. There's something you want her to adjust, perhaps how she balances her attention between you and her social life. You wait. Today, she's affectionate. Her guard is down. Her trust is high. You say, because of how strong our connection's been lately, I know you'll understand why this small adjustment makes sense for both of us. She agrees effortlessly. Had you pushed 2 days earlier, during tension or mood swings, you would have triggered unnecessary resistance. Because when emotions are closed, logic can't enter. If you're in a relationship or married, timing governs every serious conversation. Financial shifts, career decisions, parenting adjustments, family boundaries. You only introduce these when connection is strong. Trust is high. Her emotional state is relaxed. Machiavelli would call this ruling without resistance by striking at peak alignment. In short, observe her state constantly. Strike bold decisions only during high-trust moments. Her face and mannerisms will tell you everything. Withdraw temporarily when resistance rises. Because when you master timing, even difficult requests feel natural, and surrender becomes her idea, not your demand. Now let's move forward. Because even perfect timing means nothing if your delivery triggers fear. The next level is mastering how to present your leadership without ever threatening her sense of safety. Habit 6. Negotiate like a diplomat. Make compliance feel like a shared victory. True power doesn't rely on domination. It thrives on diplomacy that maintains your leadership while protecting her emotional safety. Machiavelli warned centuries ago, harsh rule invites rebellion, but wise leaders let others feel they share the power they obey. Most men try to force compliance. They issue orders. They demand immediate change. And even when the woman obeys, resentment quietly grows beneath the surface. But the Machiavellian man moves differently. He creates the illusion of shared authorship. He frames his leadership as mutual growth, so that compliance feels like her own empowered decision. Let's bring this into reality. If you're single, you want her to reduce how often she travels alone with her friends. The average man confronts directly. You need to stop this. I don't like it. Instant walls go up. Instead, you say, I trust you. And because I trust what we're building, I know you'll see how protecting our time together strengthens both of us. She agrees, not because she's forced, but because you've allowed her to feel responsible for the decision. If you're in a relationship or married, this approach becomes even more powerful. You can say, because we're both aiming to create long-term financial security, here's the structure that protects both of us. Or, because you care so deeply for the kids' stability, here's what ensures the strongest foundation. In each scenario, you never demand submission. You invite collaboration while silently steering the outcome. Machiavelli would describe this as creating voluntary investment into decisions the ruler designs. In short, always present leadership as an upgrade for both. Frame your decisions as joint protection of your shared future. Let her feel empowered in following your frame. Because when a woman emotionally invests into a decision, she no longer resists it. She protects it. Now let's move forward. Because even once compliance is secured, there's one final factor that maintains your influence long-term and makes your leadership feel irreplaceable. You never flaunt it. You never verbalize it. But she sees it. Remember this, 𝗕. Women see, but don't talk about it. And her emotional brain whispers, this man isn't desperate for my validation. He's ascending. I must secure my place beside him. If you're in a relationship, you continue building financial stability while others plateau. You maintain physical mastery while other men deteriorate. You lead socially, commanding respect in your environment. You handle conflict with emotional control while others react impulsively. Habit 7. Build leverage through subtle scarcity. There's a core truth in female psychology most men never fully integrate. A woman surrenders most easily to the man she fears losing, not because of threat, but because of his rising value. Machiavelli summarized this perfectly. Men admire what few can obtain. You don't need ultimatums. You don't need drama. You simply become increasingly rare. Because as your value compounds across multiple dimensions, discipline, ambition, social influence, emotional mastery, her brain calculates silently. Replacing him would cost me everything I've already invested. Let's make it real. If you're single, you have to make sure that your career accelerates. Your social circle strengthens. Your reputation rises quietly. Other women acknowledge your presence, your discipline, your stability. She sees this evolution over time, and each new level increases her emotional attachment, not from insecurity, but from respect and self-preservation. Would call this strengthen power by making one's presence the safest investment for those who follow. In short, relentlessly improve every pillar of your life. Looks, mind, finances, influence, discipline. Allow results to speak for you, without seeking applause. Subtly expose your growth through your evolving lifestyle, not words. Because when a woman feels she's aligned with a man whose value multiplies, compliance becomes not submission, but protection of her own future. Here's what you need to remember. Most men fight for approval. They explain, they justify, they exhaust themselves trying to earn what should be drawn to them naturally. But the rare man, the man who understands power, doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He doesn't dominate through noise. He creates gravity, a silent force that pulls without pressure, a presence that demands nothing, and yet makes surrender feel like the only option. While others drown in emotional storms, he remains anchored. While others collapse into argument, he speaks little, but moves precisely. While others negotiate their worth, he radiates it through every decision. Because true leadership isn't loud, it's stable, it's unshakable, it's undeniable. And when a woman feels that stability, when she senses that being with you elevates her, while losing you costs her everything, the game changes forever. You no longer request, you no longer negotiate, you receive, because you've become the man she cannot afford to lose. If this opened your eyes and you're serious about becoming the man who's in full control of his life, my book is now available. The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen. It's a strategic guide for men who want to attract, lead, and dominate in their love life and beyond. Whether you're single or in a relationship, no fluff, no tricks, just pure, powerful strategy that will set you apart from 99% of men, and that you will actually use every day. The link is in the description. And if this video spoke to you, don't just keep your thoughts in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember these lessons, and it might help someone else too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share it with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.